Hey there. I retired at 55 with a plan that survived every worst case scenario I could throw at it. Market crashes, inflation spikes, the everything breaks at once scenarios, and the plan passed every single time. So, why do I still feel like I was doing something wrong every time I spent money? That's the part nobody warns you about. I thought the hard part of retirement was saving enough. Boy, was I wrong. The hard part was learning to actually spend what I'd spent decades not touching. In my first year of retirement, my fear around spending was about an 8 out of 10. Now in year two, I think it's closer to a 4. So what changed? The market didn't get more predictable. Health insurance certainly didn't get cheaper. What changed was me. I'm making the mental shift from saving out of a paycheck to spending from the pile, and that shift has been harder than I expected. So today I'm sharing the 5 things that help me lower my fear of spending in retirement and help me to realize that spending isn't a threat and it's exactly what the money is for. Because one of the biggest retirement risks isn't just running out of money. For a lot of us, the bigger risk is living like we still might. The first thing that helped me was accepting the fear was psychological, not mathematical. I ran the numbers through every worst case, and the tool I used for that was Bolden, and I'll put a link to it in the description, or you can scan the QR code appearing on your screen. You can try it for free, but the paid version is where it really gets robust. Anyway, after running multiple what-if scenarios in Bolden, and I even had the plan reviewed by professionals through Morgan Stanley, which was complimentary for me because most of my accounts are with E-Trade. And that outside validation really gave me the confidence to actually pull the trigger in addition to Bolden. But even after that, spending from the pile still felt different. My spreadsheets in Bolden and the professionals said, "You're fine." But my brain kept asking, "Are you sure?" That's the strange part of retirement nobody prepares you for. You can have a plan that works but still feel nervous using it. Decades of saving, avoiding dumb purchases, staying out of debt, building the pile, and then retirement shows up and says, "Okay, now start using some of it." And your brain says, "Excuse me, we don't do that here." I've always been naturally frugal, but we never have lived like we're paupers. We enjoy life, but we never spent money just because we could. For decades, that mindset built the plan. But the mindset that gets you to retire early is not automatically the mindset that helps you enjoy retirement. The fear wasn't proof the plan was bad or had failed. It was proof I was still mentally operating like a saver. The second thing that helped me is I stopped treating all money the same. I realized I have completely different emotional reactions to different buckets of money. The checking account feels spendable. That's where the bills always were paid from. The health savings account feels spendable too for healthcare expenses, as that's a big reason why it's there. Rental income feels spendable because it shows up every month like a paycheck. There's something psychological about money that arrives regularly. The taxable brokerage feels spendable right now too, because while we're on ACA health insurance, we can sell shares strategically with a higher cost basis to help manage our MAGI, or modified adjusted gross income, which is what the ACA cares about for getting potential subsidies. But our Roth IRAs, those feel untouchable because I want those growing as long as possible. So each bucket has a job. Checking pays the bills, my solid cash runway protects against bad timing, rental income provides monthly cash flow. The brokerage account bridges the early years and is helpful to lower reported income from our ACA health insurance. Roth keeps growing. When all your money feels like one giant pile, spending from it feels bad and damaging. When it's in different accounts and buckets and I remind myself each account has a different job, then spending stops feeling as scary. The third thing that helped me is that I built a solid cash runway before I retired to quiet the market noise. This might be the single biggest peace of mind tool I have. If the market is having a tantrum, I shouldn't ever have to sell investments at the worst possible time to pay the bills. I can ignore the noise. And once you're retired, the headlines feel louder. When you're working, a market drop is unpleasant, but you still have a paycheck, so you just pretty much ignore it. When you're retired, it feels personal. I wanted enough cash to ride through a typical bear market and recovery without being a forced seller. And that cash isn't just a financial tool, it's an emotional one. It buys calm, and calm is underrated in retirement. It separates today's spending from today's headlines. If we want to take a trip or cover a home repair, I'm not checking the market first asking for permission. The cash runway already gave me permission not to spend recklessly, but to live according to the plan. The fourth thing that helped is I learned that spending can flex and what can't. Now, fear loves vague numbers. What if everything gets expensive is a real concern, but it's vague, and vague fears grow fast. What helped was knowing our actual spending, the big categories, and which ones are essential versus flexible. Real life isn't a straight spending line like the calculators assume. The reality is, if we overspend somewhere, we'll tighten up elsewhere. Some expenses are rigid: health insurance, property taxes, utilities, groceries. I can't call my health insurance provider and say, listen, the market was down this month, so let's all be flexible and we'll skip this month's payment. But travel, hobbies, home upgrades, eating out, all those can flex up or down depending on the year. This is also where you need both the spending floor and the spending ceiling. Most people understand the ceiling. It's the number where you pump the brakes if the spending gets too high. But the floor might matter more. It's the amount you give yourself permission to spend, even when headlines are scary. The number that says, we planned for this, we're allowed to live. Without a floor, the default becomes spend as little as possible, and that feels safe but becomes its own trap. Because if you wait until everything feels perfectly safe, you're going to wait forever. Because the simple fact is that markets will always be uncertain. Something in your house will always be quietly plotting against you and will break at the worst time and be expensive to repair or replace. The goal isn't eliminating uncertainty, it's building enough structure to enjoy retirement without worrying so much. The fifth thing that helped is I separated spending into 3 buckets: protection, joy, and noise. Instead of asking, can I afford this? I started asking, what job is this money doing? Health insurance is protection spending. Before Medicare, it can be painfully expensive, but it protects the plan from one catastrophic event turning into financial disaster. My brother-in-law is one of the healthiest people I know. He ate right, exercised, always was in fantastic shape for as long as I've known him. But despite that, a few years ago, he was suddenly diagnosed with kidney cancer. He ended up having to have a kidney removed. It hadn't spread, and he's doing great now. But this definitely had an impact on me and changed how I think about risk. I don't like paying for health insurance. In fact, I hate it. It's one of the expenses that makes me cringe every month. But I understand exactly why I do pay it. It's protection spending, to protect against some catastrophic health event from destroying my finances. Then there's joy spending: travel, gardening, hobbies, family time, the things that make retirement feel like retirement. This is a category I'm still working on getting used to spending money for. Travel is the big one. I want to travel, but because it's optional, that little voice still shows up in my head. Last year, I went back to Wisconsin to see family 3 times. And part of me questioned it because I FaceTime with my parents every Sunday. So it's not like I'm not staying in touch with them, but nothing replaces being in the same room. This fall, we're taking our 25th anniversary trip, a few days in Athens, a Mediterranean cruise through Montenegro, Corfu, Sicily, and the Amalfi Coast, then Barcelona for a few days. That costs real money. And I still catch myself asking, are we being responsible, even though this is exactly what we save for? You can save for an experience for years and still feel guilty booking it. Gardening feels different, almost guilt-free, because I get months of enjoyment from what I buy. Travel feels temporary. You spend the money, take the trip, and it's over. But temporary doesn't mean wasteful. A trip is temporary, but the memories it creates aren't. Most joy isn't sitting on a balance sheet, but that doesn't make it less valuable. Then there's noise spending, buying for status, boredom, or comparison. That doesn't help me enjoy retirement, it just makes the pile smaller. And that distinction matters. When spending is protection, I remind myself it's defending the plan. When it's joy, I remind myself it's why I built the plan. When it's noise, I can say no without feeling bad about it. So those are the 5 things. Accepting the fear was psychological, giving different money, different jobs, building a cash runway, knowing what can flex, and separating protection, joy, and noise spending. Now, I want to talk about this too. We do want to leave money for our daughter, and legacy matters to us, but it's not the only goal, and I don't want to accidentally make her the beneficiary of a retirement I was too afraid to enjoy. For disciplined savers, underspending can feel virtuous, safe, responsible. But there's a hidden cost: the trip not taken, the visit delayed, the hobby postponed, the healthier version of yourself you didn't invest in, not because you couldn't afford it, but because you couldn't let yourself. Once a healthy year is gone, it's gone. I used to think retirement confidence was about having enough money. Now I think it's about giving yourself permission to use it. The math got me into retirement. My mindset is what helps me enjoy it. And that mindset is still a work in progress. I still question travel. I still notice the big expenses. I still like watching the portfolio grow more than spending money from it. But I'm getting better at remembering the goal isn't to die with the largest portfolio possible. It's to use the money while I still have the health, time, and freedom to enjoy it. If you're still working towards retirement, don't just plan how you'll save enough. Plan how you'll give yourself permission to spend it. Because the day will come when the numbers say you're ready, but your brain still asks, are you sure? And when that happens, you'll need more than a spreadsheet. You'll need a system, guardrails, flexibility, and the memory of why you built the pile in the first place. You didn't save all that money to stare at it. You saved it to buy freedom. Now I'm learning how to actually use mine. If you're retired or getting close, I want to know, what's the easiest thing for you to spend money on, and what's the biggest challenge for you to spend money on? Let me know in the comments. Also, quick note, I'd like to invite you to consider joining my Patreon. You can join for free, and I have a lot of free tools you can use, things like my ACA Magi Estimator, Retirement Readiness Scorecard, Cash Runway Worksheet, 10 Ways to Lower Your ACA Premiums ebook, Treasury and CD Ladder Guides, and so forth. And if you'd like to go a step further, the paid Roadmap member tier is now just $5 a month. That gets you early access to new podcast episodes, all of my podcast episodes ad-free, and access to the private Roadmap member community discussion space where paid members can ask questions, share experiences, compare notes, and communicate with others who are thinking seriously about retirement. I'll participate regularly, but my goal is to build a real community, not just make it about me. You can join my Patreon for free or become a Roadmap member by using the link in the description or using the QR code on your screen. And go to mikeupland.com for all of my media. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care and make the most of today.